you doing around here?
I live right there.
Get out. You do not.
I do. So...
The film opens with Violet sitting alone in her bedroom, murmuring the name Garrett to a photograph of the two of them at high school. The caption she has written underneath reads, "You and me forever." On her wedding anniversary, she is sitting with a photograph of herself and Garrett from high school, whispering his name to it. Her husband, Mason, tells her tonight is their 15th anniversary, and he has a reservation at her favorite restaurant. He tries gently to take the photo. She slaps him, shoves him against the wall, and chokes him. She tells him she has always hated him. Mason, resigned and frightened, has lived with this for 15 years. The marriage ends not long afterward. Violet buys the house next door to Garrett's.
Garrett Hawkins is a creative director at an advertising agency, a warm and steady man who jogs in the morning and makes his family laugh at dinner. His wife Daisy is a book editor, whose boss calls her the only editor she knows who has never missed a deadline. Together, they are exactly the kind of couple that a person watching through a window might find unbearable. They have a 17-year-old daughter named Allison, who designs clothes and has just been shortlisted for the Paris Academy of Design, the most prestigious fashion school in the world, and at full tuition, more than the family can currently afford. Garrett's hours have just been cut by his boss. The couple argues over Allison's school. Daisy is determined to find a way. Garrett is afraid they cannot. After his morning run, Garrett finds a woman standing outside the house next door. She pretends to be surprised to see him. Her name is Violet. She says she just moved in. When Daisy arrives, the three of them catch up on 20 years at once. Garrett and Violet dated briefly in high school, for a week, maybe two. Violet is recently divorced, but seeing someone wonderful named Pro. Daisy, disarmed, invites her to dinner. That evening, Violet arrives with a homemade pie and a deliberately low-cut dress. She has spent the afternoon preparing both. She is charming, warm, and apparently genuinely excited by Allison's design work. She commissions Allison to make her a dress and offers to attend the upcoming fashion show. She teaches Daisy how to bake the same pie. Before leaving, she hugs Garrett and, in her imagination, does not let go. Back at her house, she cuts Daisy out of the photograph she took of all three of them and frames herself and Garrett as a couple. The next morning, Violet comes over to bake with Daisy. While Daisy is in the kitchen, she slips into her home office and copies down her banking passwords. While rolling pastry, she secretly injects something into the pie that Daisy is planning to bring to her boss, Claudia. She also hires Oliver, a former con man who once scammed Mason, offering him a down payment for a job she will not name yet. Over coffee the next morning, the two women reminisce about high school. Daisy asks about Kurt De La Rosa, the football captain. She confesses she only ever dated Garrett. She asks Violet why she and Garrett broke up. In Violet's imagination, she screams that Daisy ruined everything by showing up. Out loud, Violet says she cannot remember. She is pleasant. She is warm. 2 days later, she calls Oliver and confirms the plan. Fidelity Futures, a fake investment company, will target Daisy with a call about doubling her money in 6 months, specifically mentioning Allison's education fund. Oliver becomes the smooth financial advisor, Russ. Separately, after the pie and the passwords are secured, Daisy gets the call she has been waiting for. She has been promoted to senior book editor. At a cafe, she meets Claudia and is thrilled to learn she has been promoted. She also gives Claudia the pie. Within minutes, Claudia is violently ill and rushed to hospital. Daisy confronts Violet. Violet suggests calmly that Claudia must have had an allergic reaction. Didn't the family eat the other pie without any problems? Daisy apologizes for accusing her. Claudia's daughter, Gina, will later fire Daisy from the company entirely for poisoning her mother. At the coffee shop where Garrett usually takes clients, Violet is waiting with her laptop as if by coincidence. He sits with her and apologizes for breaking up with her before prom, saying it was wrong and he has always felt bad about it. She acts gracious and healed. He walks away satisfied that the past is cleared. She watches him go, furious that he loves Daisy so completely. She sabotages Daisy's car and tips Oliver off to listen in during his upcoming meeting with Daisy. Daisy goes to the Fidelity Futures address and meets Russ in a rented office that Oliver has hastily furnished for the occasion. The rest of the team is conveniently on a retreat in Napa. Oliver is smooth and persuasive. Daisy tells him about the $75,000 she and Garrett have saved for Allison. He tells her they can double it in 6 months. She is not committed yet, but schedules a follow-up. When Garrett arrives at the cafe and finds Daisy sitting with the financial advisor he knows nothing about, he is furious. They argue on the street. Violet, listening through Oliver's open line, smiles. Meanwhile, Allison, who trusts Violet entirely at this point and considers her glamorous and exciting in the way that mothers can never quite be, secretly goes to Violet for help with her makeup for the fashion show without telling Daisy. Daisy sees her leaving Violet's house and confronts Violet. Later, Violet logs into Daisy's bank account with the stolen passwords and transfers the entire education fund, $75,000, to the Fidelity Futures account. Daisy's car breaks down on the way to Allison's fashion show. She calls Allison by video. Violet steps in beside Allison and comforts her. When Daisy finally gets home, Garrett and Allison are sitting with Violet, eating her cookies and talking about the fashion show. Allison turns on her mother for missing it. Garrett runs after Violet when she leaves to smooth things over and hugs her on the front step. Daisy sees everything from the window.
That night, Daisy discovers the education fund has been transferred. She did not authorize it. Garrett demands an explanation. Oliver's number is disconnected. The company's website leads nowhere. Violet watches from her window as the marriage comes apart at the seams. Oliver turns up at Violet's door to demand $100,000 in silence money, or he goes to the police. She gives him a note, telling him to meet her at Daisy's. The next morning, she brings Daisy coffee laced with a sedative. Daisy collapses. When Oliver lets himself into the house and finds her unconscious, Violet steps out and stabs him. She places the knife in Daisy's hand and is on her way out when Allison comes home early from school. She hides. Allison finds her mother unconscious and a man dead on the floor and calls the police. Daisy wakes up in custody with no memory of how she got there. The knife has her fingerprints. Oliver is dead. She tells the police Violet put something in her drink, but there is nothing at the scene. She is charged with murder. Violet moves into the role she has always wanted, cooking meals for Garrett and Allison every day, consoling them, replacing Daisy in everything but name. While Daisy is in prison, Garrett and Allison are convinced of her innocence and determined to prove it. Allison begins her own investigation. She discovers that Pro, the boyfriend Violet claimed to be seeing, is a model who is married to someone else. Violet invented him. She tells Garrett. He is skeptical. She sneaks into Violet's house while Violet is out and finds a business card for Fidelity Futures. She goes to Mason. Mason tells her everything. Oliver once scammed him. Violet hired Oliver for her own schemes for years, and Violet has been obsessed with Garrett since high school. The reason Mason married her was that he hoped she would eventually love him. Instead, she became violent and nearly killed him. He divorced her and cut her off. Allison tells Garrett everything. Garrett goes home and confronts Violet. He lists what she has done. Poisoned Claudia, destroyed Daisy's career, stolen the education fund, killed Oliver, framed Daisy. She tells him it was all for love. He says he is calling the police. She attacks him with a blunt object, hitting him repeatedly until he goes down. As she stands over him, she is overwhelmed. This is the man she has loved her entire life, and she has just put him on the floor. She begins to cry and calls him a monster for making her do it. Allison arrives home and finds her father unconscious. She confronts Violet, who tries to stab her. Allison runs outside. Violet corners her. Garrett drags himself out of the house and pulls Violet off his daughter. In the struggle, Allison gets back on her feet and strikes Violet hard enough to knock her out. With Violet in custody, Claudia giving a statement about the pie, Oliver's phone records connecting him to Fidelity Futures, and Mason's account of years of violent obsession, the case against Daisy collapses. She is cleared of all charges and comes home. She is met at the door by Garrett and Allison. Sometime later, Allison receives a full scholarship to the Paris Academy of Design, and Violet is in prison. A guard checks on her through the door and finds her sitting with the photograph of herself and Garrett from high school, the one she whispers his name to. She is still holding it. She will not put it down. Of herself and Garrett, still unable to let it go. And that is how the story ends. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more exciting videos and updates.